80% of the developers are writing the outdated patterns, like they are using the manual loops, they are using the verbose condition checks, they are writing the boilerplate code without using the filtering of Java 8 streams. Video we are going to cover the top 10 Java collections and the Java 8 hacks that are going to instantly upgrade your coding style. Now if you are using these techniques while writing Java 8 code, or you are dealing with collections, then this is going to build your confidence. If you are attending any interview, impose that you are having a very good coding standards and the style to write the code. Let's look at the filtering with Java streams as a first example. Before Java 8 streams, let us look how we used to do the manual filtering. So we have a list. Let's say if I had a list of names, so I will just import this. Now let's say I'm adding some names over here. Now I have this particular input, that is names of some people. Now what I'm doing here is that I'm trying to get the filtered names which are going to start with, let's say, some letter S, or let's say some letter G. So what we used to do, we used to actually go to the, we used to iterate this, right? So we used to make use of the for loop over here. So here we used to make the str and then the names. Okay, and then what we used to do, we used to filter those names. So I used to add this condition. So here there was a method starts with, let's say I'm talking about only, let's say, S over here. So if that is the case, then we used to create another list over here, which we called filtered. So we used to create an array list over here, and then we used to add them over here. So in this way, we used to write this, and let me print this. Now if you take a look at this, I will be printing the names filtered over here. Let me try to run this particular program. Now if you take a look at this, out of this particular list, whatever it is there, it is showing only those names over. Now this was prior to Java 8. Now let's look at how we can achieve this same functionality with the help of Java streams using the filters. So we'll take an approach of Java 8 filtering. So what we will do, we'll take this same array list over here. So what we'll do, we'll take the same array list. Now instead of this particular list, we'll create another list over here. We'll check it as Java streams. Now here, instead of making that particular call on that top of that particular for loop, we are taking that and we'll be converting that to the streams first. Now in order to work on streams, because we are working on the copy or not actual array list, we'll taking that as an input as that particular list, and then we will try to filter those. So there is one filter method over here. Let's say we take this as a name, and then here actually we'll call this same if loop whatever we had done there. So let's say I'm trying to add S over here only. Now what this will give, if you take a look at this, this is going to be a predicate over here, and it is going to return a stream of it. Now this is the intermediate operation. Now we have to call the terminal operation. So there is one collect which is going to be converted to a list. So I'm going to convert this to a list over here and assign it to it over here. So here actually instead of writing this, I will directly assign it to here. Okay, and then I will complete this. Now let me print this particular it. Okay, now let me print this particular value over here. Now you see same thing has been achieved without you need to writing the for loop. How and the first we made a for loop, then we had an if loop. So in this way you can actually in the functional way achieve this using the Java 8 streams. Let's take an example of converting a list to a map. First we'll check on the manual conversion how we are going to do in Java. So here if you take a look at this, I have a person class over here. So I have the ID, name, getter setters, and the constructor created for it. And then if you take a look at this, I have created one array list over here. and I've created an instance of two. Actually, I've added two of them persons in the list over here. Now I wanted to convert this list to a map now. Now let's see how we can do this. Prior to this Java 8, we used to write the person and the person list over here. Now what we used to do, we used to create a map over here. So we wanted a map of what we need integer, right? So with the name, number, and then the string. Let's say we're taking the name of that. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll create a person map and we'll create a hash map over here. So if you are aware, map is one of the interface and then hash map is one of the implementation of it. Now what we used to do, we used to put this particular person map. We're trying to add some element over here. So here we'll take what the pr dot get id because we wanted id, and then again pr dot get name over here. Now in this way we are trying to add those particular elements over here, and then we used to print that. So let us print this and see what output it comes when you try to do the map filtering. So here I'm trying to print a value over here. So here let me run this particular program for you. Now you see it is created a map over here with the key value pair, that is the key is an id and the value is the name of it. Now let us look at how we can achieve the same using the Java 8 streams. Now we have the same list over here, right? So the we'll take again another hash map as we wanted as an output as an hash map only. So here we'll create a person hash map that is using the Java 8 features. Now here what we used to do in order to perform some operation, we have to first convert it into the streams only. So this is the one basic step for any stream API you need to perform, whether you want to perform terminal or an intermediate operation. This is a must that you should be using it. Then what we'll do, we will collect this particular string as we have a collect method. Now as we wanted to collect not to the list, we wanted to map it to the map, right, from the list. Now we already have a list, so I wanted to convert it into a map. So I'm making use of the collectors map method over here. Now you will see, let's take we wanted the person get id, so I'm making using the method reference over here. Same, I will make use of the person get name over here. So this particular way, if you take a look, I'm making use of the method reference feature of Java 8, and also I'm converting it to the map over here, so which requires the key and the value over here. So once it is done, it is assigned to that particular list over. Now it will give me a map of this. Okay, so that is what actually we intended to create. Now I will assign this to the same over here. Now you see here, I have assigned this over here. Let us print this map now. So let me run this particular program. Now you see this is exactly the output whatever we wanted, but using the Java 8 streams. Now you don't you see, like, we instead of writing this particular logic over here, this seems to be a very effective way to write this. Let us take an example of grouping by now. Now we have a list over here. So we'll look into like how you can achieve grouping with normal and with Java 8 as well using the collectors grouping by. So here if you see I have an employee. So if in under employee you will see the name, department, getter setters, and the constructor has been created for it. Now post this, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create an array list over here. Now here if you take a look at this, this is going to be the names and the department wise. So if you see the employee is created over here, so you see there are 5 of them which has been created as an object inside it. So there are different departments: IT, HR, admin. Now you make a note, I have actually a repetition of this names the department over here, but there are unique names over here. Now let's say I wanted to segregate this particular list into a map, and I wanted to segregate into a department wise. So here what I wanted to do, now I wanted some key as a department, and the value would be a list of employees. Now in this case, the ideal solution or the ideal collection to be used up is string map, that is using the list of string over here, or let's say list of employee only. I wanted employees, right? Now here actually I can create it. Now this would be the employees department wise map. Now this is something which we'll be creating, and that we are again going to make use of the hash map over here. Now prior to Java 8, what we used to do, we used to write a for loop. So we used to iterate the employee. We'll take the employee instance, then employees, we used to iterate over this. Now after getting this, we used to check whether this particular department is that same or not. So here we used to write, so we used to check if employee by department whatever is having this particular key or not. So we used to check that. Now we wanted to check with respect to the employee dot get name, right? So we'll check the department over here. So if this particular condition used to be satisfied, then what we used to do, if this particular element is not present inside it, we used to put that element. Now what is the value we wanted to add it? The department ID, and then the employee, actual employee, right? So we used to create a new employee over here. So here if you see, I used to create an array list over here. So if this was done, I think we used to add that. Now post this, what we can do, from this we will get that particular department, and then we'll try to add the employee over here. So employee is what? EMP over here. So in this way we used to write those. Let me run this and show you the output of this, so that you are able to see the actual map of employees with department wise. Now this might be a question or in an interview as well, where you will be asked to write this particular program with or without Java 8 features. So if you see here, let me comment the previous snippet over here so that you are clear on the output. Now let me run this particular program. Now you see here I have an employees list over here, and you see they are segregated with a department. Now in this particular first, if you see, there are two of them as an HR, one as an IT person, and then admin. If you see, again there are two persons. Okay, so in this way it is achieved using the normal Java with prior to Java 8 features. Now let us take a look at how we can achieve the same using the Java 8. Now again we need this. So what we'll do, we'll create an hash map, we'll add up as in Java 8 over here, and then what we'll do, we'll take this particular employee list over here, and then we'll convert it to a stream first. So this is the very basic step which we have to do, and then we'll call the collector. So now instead of collecting it to the list directly, we have one method called grouping by. Now in this we have to tell it, like, we have to group by what actually, right? So we have to tell it we want it as in department wise. Okay, so once you do this, it will be mapped to that particular map over here. Now you see this is assigning those particular value, and it is giving you the list of map only. So let me try to print this as well for you. So now I'll be printing the latest. Okay, now let me run this and show you the output as well. Now if you see, this is exactly the same, whatever the output what we have done using the normal prior to Java 8, this is exactly the same output what we expected. Okay, so the same way we can achieve using the Java 8. Let's take an example of the flattening. So let's say you have one object, and under that you have another list of objects as well. So basically you have a list of list basically, and you wanted to convert it into a single list instead of multiple loops under the list, right? So here in this case we'll look at how we can actually iterate over the list of list and get those and convert it into a single list over here. So I'm going to flatten it up. Instead of list of list, I'm just going to convert it to a list. Let us look at how we can do that flattening with a prior to Java 8, and how we can achieve this using the Java 8 as well. Now if you take a look, I have one program class written over here. Under this I have list of IDs, and I have created the list of IDs over here, and then I'm getting the setter ID and the getter ID, and then I'm trying to create a constructor over here. Now if you take a look at this, so I've created one list over here. I've added those particular programs and also created the task IDs inside it. Now I have to I have to iterate it. So in order to do that, what I will do, I have to convert this particular to the for loop. So at the very top we have programs. So what we'll do, we will take the programs over here. Now this is going to be the list, because this is itself a list of it. So first I have to iterate this particular list of programs. So here if you see, this is the list of programs, and under this I have an array list also, right? So here I am trying to write one more for loop, because there is a list of list over here, right? The list, the first item of this particular list will have another list of items over here. So in order for that, again I will be writing the IDs over here. So I will take, now if you take a look at this, so I've actually created a wrong variable over here, and I'm trying to get those IDs over here. Now once you get those list over here, so here what I have to do, I have to add those particular to a single list over here. So I wanted a complete single list. So what I will do, I will be converting those particular list of string, okay, all programs list. So I'm going to create an array list over here. Now once we do this, I will try to add this particular, so I will take tid and add it over here. So this is how I'm going to add that particular list over here inside this. And once I have this particular list, I will try to print these elements over here. So let us try to print. I will just make the changes over here. If you take a look at this particular program, so using the Java 8, I am trying to create a map of programs, not map but list over here, and I'm going to print it. Now if you, for your information, what I will do, I will just try to print first this particular program so that you have an understanding of programs list. Okay, so I'm giving you the original programs. So let me run this. Now if you take a look at this, we had this particular list, and under this also there was a list element of it. So you see there are different list elements of the program over here. Now if you take a look at the output, you see these are all converted to a string of list. So the list is created with the of strings, actually the strings. So this is how you can achieve this using the normal. Now let us try to take an example of the Java 8 flatMap. So there is a flatMap filter method that is an, you can consider is an intermediate operation. So that is one of the intermediate operation which is used for flattening up. We'll make use of that here. So here if you take the same list of programs, so we know, like in the very first step is we have to convert it into the string. Then what we have to do, we have to call, there is one flatMap method. Now it is going to take the project or the program, and then the pr dot get ids dot stream. Now we have to convert it into the stream, right? Because this itself is a list over here. Now after having this, what we'll do, we'll collect it to the list over here, and then we are done over here. So that's the changes all we need to do with respect to converting or flattening it to a map or a list over here. So in case like we could have done it to the map, then we could have given the key and value pair over here. But as I'm giving this particular output, I wanted this particular array list, so I'm going to create a program list, and so I have to rename it with Java 8 over here. So and I'm going to print this particular value that is using the Java 8 features. Now you see here, this is giving the exactly the same output whatever we have written with respect to normal Java program. And if you see, it is pretty concise. You doesn't have to write a for loop and then again a for loop and then try to add up over here. So this will be taken care. You doesn't need to perform all this for loop and then addition. So these all things are quite cumbersome when it comes to writing this particular logic. Now you see it is straightly done that you doesn't have to do nothing much, just call those functional methods whichever has been written over here, and then we can achieve this. Let us look at how we used to handle the null checks earlier, that is using the prior Java 8 method. So and we also looked into how we can make use of the optional container in order to solve this null pointer checks, how the written code we used to write it, how we can avoid that using the optional way. Now let's create an object. So I've created already a department over here. Now you will see I have the name over here. I've written the getter setter constructor. Now what we'll do, we'll create an instance of this particular department over here. Let's say the department, and then I will create an instance of this. So as I had not written the default constructor, I think I have to write this over here to solve that as okay. Now let's say I'm creating an instance over here. Now what we used to do earlier to check this particular null, whether this particular object is null or not, we used to call that particular method name over here, we used to write a logic like this, right? Also, we used to check if this particular is not null. Then in that case, what we used to do, department, then get name is not equal to null. Now you see, this is quite cumbersome, and this is one of the boilerplate code also. It is not a better way to handle it. Now you see, I have to write a logic over here, like, so I have to, take this value and print that. So here actually it says, let's say the name is. So we used to get that particular department and then get name. Or else what we used to print that, there is no department email or name over here. No department name present. So in this way, we used to write this particular logic and print it. So let's say if I've not assigned anything over here. So let me run this and show you what would be the output over here. Now you see it says there is no department assigned. Now let's say if I assign one department like HR and then I run this. Now you see here this name has come over here. Okay. So this is how you used to write prior to Java 8. Now with Java 8 coming in picture, there is a better way to handle the null pointer exception, the better way to write using the container way, where your optional it was introduced. So it was actually considered as a container of storing those particular elements. So whether there will be two conditions, whether it will have that particular element, whether it is present or not, whether this particular value is empty or not, you can actually check with various methods which is provided by the optional class. So this was quite handy, and also this is one of the best way to handle the null pointer exception. Along with this particular optional, we can also check out and throw, or let's say you can give the default value. So in this way, that was very precise and a better way to write it. So we'll look into this the same way. Now same, we have the department over here. Now instead of this, what we used to do, we'll call dot get name over here, and then we'll check this particular changes over here. So let us look how we can achieve the same using the Java 8 optional features. Now optional 8 is nothing but a container where it used to store the elements, and whether we will able to understand whether it is the container is empty, whether it has some value, like if the value is present or not. Or let's say you wanted to return some default value, in that case we can make use of this. Let's say you also on a certain condition, let's say you want to return or throw an exception. Let's say you wanted to find out that if only these particular elements are there, then condition okay, otherwise you can actually throw an exception. So the business logic can be written like this, and many helper methods were provided. So in order to take this example, let's go to the department and make little bit changes over here. So instead of this particular get department ID where I'm trying to get this will return an optional of string. Okay, so I have to import this particular class over here using the Java util, and then this will return an optional of nullable. So whether it is nullable or not, we will be able to see, right? So we can check this. So this is one change we have to do. Now here what we'll do, we'll take that department, we'll get that particular. Now you see earlier it was string, now it is returning the optional of string. Now here on top of this, what we can do, we can check if this particular value is present, or else we can actually throw an exception also. Now along with this, if you see, there are also a lot of methods which are there, like or else is there, or else throw is there. You can perform on that, and also if there is a value, you can directly get it as well. So also if this particular, let's say you wanted to check like whether it is empty or not null or something like that, then in that case is empty is there, like you can also check if present. These things actually you can, or else you wanted to get something else. So these are all the handy utility methods which are provided by the optional, which you had to write your own logic to implement that. So this is quite concise way to handle this, and a better way to handle. Okay, so here what we'll do, we'll check if this particular value is present or not. If it is not present, then what we'll do, we'll take the name and then we'll print this out over here. So let's say I'm printing the name over here, and I'm trying to get the name. Okay, so here you can also write like this way, if you see. So I'm trying to write the else as well over here. Now here if you see, I can give a statement whether this particular name is there or not. So I can mention no name is present. Okay, so this way I had a better way to handle this particular way to handle the null or empty or a blank, right? So I doesn't need to write a different logics like in a very long way or an old way. So here if you see, let's say I have no department. Now let's see what it prints. So here you see it is saying no name is present. If this is coming from this. Now let's say I have the name over here. Okay. So this will print that particular name now. See here. Now earlier it was giving optional as an empty over here. If you see, that is the difference. So this is very handy method, and you can actually revolutionize your old code way. You can modernize your old code which was written, so it will drastically reduce your efforts to checks which you've done on that particular code manually. Now let us take an example of how we can remove the elements from the list actually. Now prior to Java 8, we used to use a for loop or a while loop, and then we used to iterate it over there. So on the next element, we used to check that particular and we have to remove that. So iterator was the way to remove those particular elements. We'll just check that as an example. So now I have a list of names over here. Now in order to do that, what we used to do, now this particular names dot iterator. So I have to have this particular iterated first in order to iterate this. So I have to go one by one and I have to iterate, right? So I have to use iterator of whatever, like string is there. Now in this case it is string. So iterator. So we needed this. Now based on this, we used to write our logic or while loop over here. Let's say I'm writing a while loop and I'm checking this particular iterator has got the next element or not. Then we used to take that particular iterator and then get the next element whichever it is there. So here we used to, let's say we assign it to some, let's say n value over here. Now here what we used to do, we will to first iterate it, then we used to remove it, this particular element, right? Now we should check if this particular element is null or not as well. Also it should not be empty also. So it should be empty also. Then only we will try to remove this. So if this is null as an element inside it, or if it is empty, then we used to remove this particular from the iterator. Now this is one of the way to remove those using the prior Java 8 features. Now after this, what we'll do, we'll try to print this and show you the output, whether this particular list has been removed or not. So here what I will do instead of this. Now before this, actually I have to print those particular value to show you that this iterator has removed those elements from that. Now you see here the blank. Let's say I have some null value over here, or let's say some empty element inside. Now if you take a look at this, I had to modify this particular array list over here because I have to create it as an array list over here as a new, and then I'm trying to remove an element. Now if you see here, I had null also, I had the blank value as well inside this, but if you see after the removal of using the iterator, we are able to remove this. So that is the one way we used to remove those elements from the list over here. Now let us look how we can achieve the same functionality with the help of removeIf method. So there is a removeIf method which is provided by the list over here. Now you see, I will take the list over here. So I have to create. So let me comment this out, because if I don't comment this out, I will not be able to show you how you can. Let us achieve this using the removeIf method. So now on top of this names, I will call this removeIf method. Now here I have to take that particular null value and I have to check whether it is null or not, or else s is empty or not, and then perform this. Now if you see this, this is producing that same result whatever it was there. Now we have to print this prior to this, right? So let me print this before, so that you have an understanding of the null values and the empty values were present, and then we were able to remove using the remove if method over here. So this is quite concise to compare to this particular whatever the logic we have written over here, and in one shot you can apply this. Now let's say I wanted to concatenate two array list into a single one, or I want to combine that particular array list. We have different array list. I want to combine into one thing. So you remember in the second example we had checked on the flat map, where from the list of list I had converted to the flattened map over here. Now here we can actually make use of the concatenation as well over here. So I can use Java 8 concat method over here in order to achieve that. But prior to this, I will check how we can make use of the Java 8 features and how we can achieve this. So we'll have this particular another list created over here, because I wanted a combination of list, right? So I will be creating a combined list. Now what we used to do, we will create a new array list over here. Now as we wanted the list combined to add all the elements which are there inside the list one actually, then same thing, we'll add all the elements from the list 2. Now in this way we will add one by one whatever the list were there. So what we'll do, we'll print this, the final list over here, and then let me run this to show you. Now you see this is combined into one of the list over here. Now let's see how we can achieve the same using the Java 8 streams concat method. Now this particular list whatever I had, so what I will do, I will make use of the stream class, and then on top of this I will call a concat method of this. Now in this I have to, if you take a look at this, I will pass the two list over here. So one list over here. Now make sure you cannot directly pass that list, you have to convert it to the stream. Similar is the case with the, and then we can collect it to what, we can collect it to a list. So this is how you can do that, and then this will be converted to the combined list over here. So let me comment this out for as of now. Now I will actually, so this is going to be a duplicate code, so let me just remove this particular logic over here and then print that. Now you see, and let me run this particular program for you. Now you see this is the same combined list which is coming when we had this normal add list add all method being called on top of that particular combined list. Now in this way you can pretty concisely add those list over here and collect it to the list over here. So this is one simple way to do that. I hope video has given you some value. Please thumbs up on this particular video. Also check out my channel for more such videos, because I've made lot of videos on Java, Spring Boot, microservice concepts along with the interviews preparations. So I have listed my channel over here. Please check it out. Also don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thank you for watching.